Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again for coming to the Resident Academic Leadership Forum. For those of you who weren't here earlier, my name is Carolyn Holland. I'm on the program committee, and I was the chair of the subgroup that planned this activity for you. We're going to start the day with a panel of some leaders in our residency programs across the country. They have generated a list of questions themselves that they're willing to answer, but they also polled the audience while you guys were having breakfast to find out what things you really want to hear from these people who are in leadership positions in residency programs and their expectations. I have a quick question. How many of you guys are going to be chief residents this coming year? That's what I thought. Awesome. Well, this day is specifically designed for you, so thank you for your work, because it's going to be a lot of work next year, but hopefully we'll give you some skills and tools today that will make it a little bit less challenging and funner. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panel members for this first panel. So first is Stroud, and I'm going to butcher your last name.
Minderata.
Who is from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Next is Henry Young from the University of Florida, Gainesville. And then Susan Stroud at the right from the University of Utah. They are going to answer any questions that you have. We do have two runners. If my runners can wave their hands in the back. We've got Patrick and Shayna. So if you have a question, raise your hand. They will come over to you with a microphone. And I have a microphone also, which I'm going to turn on and make sure is working here. Hold on. Yes. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and just let them do some quick introductions of themselves and move on to the questions for you guys. Thanks.
Well, good morning. Thank you all for coming. I'm Stroud Minderata. I'm the program director and medical director, chief of emergency services, and I have a bunch of other titles. But basically, I'm the chief resident of emergency medicine. I'm responsible for like over 100 faculty and what seems to be 21 residents who are actually easier to manage than the faculty. So I started my career actually here at this chief resident forum in academic emergency medicine. I didn't think I wanted to do academics. Over a decade ago, I was telling some of the colleagues they had actually had the resident party the night before the chief resident forum, so it was like really not well attended in the morning. So thank you all for being here, getting up super early. Chief residents are really the core of emergency medicine education. I appreciate your service, your dedication. Your peers will never say thank you, but thank you for me. Thanks for coming, and I hope this is a productive day for you guys.
Hi, my name is Henry Young. I'm from University of Florida. I also attended this event not too long ago. I thought it was very useful, and I'm glad they're still doing it. I came up through University of Florida system. I was chief resident there, and then assistant medical director for a while, and then did a research fellowship, and now I'm an assistant program director. Being a chief is truly an honor. It really demonstrates that you're respected by both your peers and the faculty at your institution. So you guys have started off your residency, although you're almost done with it, on a good foot. And residency is not easy, and it's not easy to be excellent in residency. So one of the things I want to make sure is that you guys have established yourself as role models at your own institutions. And work really hard to maintain that this year. Chief year is hard, but you're in a position to actually make some very influential changes at your program. So take advantage of it, get engaged, stay engaged, and we'll talk more.
I'm Susan Stroud. I am now old enough in this profession that I don't think this actually existed when I was sitting at the same place you guys are. I did my residency training at Highland, and then I joined the faculty at San Francisco General because they told me they were going to have a residency program, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. That didn't happen while I was there, but then I got this awesome opportunity to move to Utah and start a residency program where I've been since I wrote the whole entire how this program's going to be. Boy, was that like a big lie. But it all worked out, and I've been there ever since. So I had this awesome opportunity to actually decide with all of my beginning residents if we even wanted to have chief residents. So we made the stupid idea that we were going to make the entire class chief residents. We can talk about the stupidity of that if you actually want to know that later. But the fact that we now have our chief residents are elected by their peers only, and none of our faculty have any say in that, which means I really have to trust all of my residents to make choices for the leadership for themselves, and they have to trust that they're not going to get thrown to the wolves and have to come talk to me about stuff that I don't really want them to come ask me for. So there's a lot of difficulty in the positions that you guys are taking on, but wow, the opportunity is amazing. And I've just, like, from walking around talking to some of you today, I have not yet heard anybody say, I'm the chief because no one else would do it, which was great. So you guys are the chiefs because you want to make change, you want to be the leaders, you have incredible ideas, and you also have genuine and well thought out fears about it. So way to go. We'll try to help you with this.
So at this point, we'll open up the floor to anybody who has questions. If you raise your hand, myself, one of my 2 medical students will come and bring you the microphone. Or if you're like me and you don't really need a microphone, you want to stand up and just be very loud, you're welcome to do that also. He is definitely not very loud.
Nobody wanted the terrible jobs. So what the question was, what happened when everyone was chief resident? Everyone wanted the cool stuff. No one wanted the uncool stuff, so they all tried to assign it to each other. And there were, there were 8 people in my first class. So the people below them, because, like, you know, for a while I only had 8 residents. That was awesome. And then suddenly I had 24. And the 16 below them couldn't figure out who to go ask for anything. So it was like the worst game of, like, go ask your mom to make that decision. Only there was like 8 people who were trying to make that decision.
So, Susan, you talked about wanting other people to do your work, like delegating. That's awesome. How does a chief resident, like, successfully delegate all the unsavory portions of their job to other people successfully? Maybe Henry can answer that.
Yeah, go for it, Henry.
Yeah, then not really an easy question, but it is a big part of being chief and of being a leader. Part of being a leader is not just bossing people around and telling people what to do, is getting them engaged, getting them as excited about that mission that you want to engage them in as you are. And so it's a lot to do with framing. It's when I delegate, I do it in a way where I demonstrate that I'm empowering that person and I value their opinion, and that's why I selected them to be over this. And it's really important that you help me accomplish this goal, because I want to make sure, if you're delegating to another resident, like, I want to make sure that this residency represents the thoughts and the ideas and the vision of the entire class. And so, you know, yes, it may be a task that nobody else wants to do, but when you frame it in, hey, you get to be a part of actually affecting change and improving the residency and improving the wellness of your co-residents, it's harder to say no to that than if you just say, hey, can you do this task on Wednesday? So that's how I approach it.
I would never ask someone to do a task that I wasn't willing to do myself. So role modeling that I'm willing to take a piece of the crap-filled sandwich and eat it myself makes it a lot easier to ask other people to jump in and do that as well. So, and recognizing their efforts to do things that are not as awesome to do, and I think Henry is right, framing that in the opportunity to learn. Because we learn things from even the things that are menial and seem like they are not important or really not something that people want to do. You learn a lot from that. You guys have all known that. You guys are sitting at this table because you've been willing to undertake a lot of things that other people are not willing to undertake, and trying to make other people understand that you really need that help to do that, and that you would do that yourself, but you have other things as well that are just as undesirable, that are on your plate and you can't take them off, is an important piece of that.
Servant leadership is kind of the overall topic. Servant leadership, or eating the crap sandwich. Chief Resident pro tip number 1, okay? If you're going to eat the crap sandwich, do so publicly where all the other residents see you partake in the sandwich. For instance, sign yourself up for the night shifts on the holiday that you don't want, like your mother-in-law is coming into town or something. Sign yourself up for the night shifts during that major holiday that everybody wants off, and then you get to celebrate minor holidays. And I still celebrate minor holidays, which is like Flag Day, Labor Day. I always try to get Labor Day or Memorial Day. Forget Christmas, Thanksgiving, the holiday season. Forget that. But you can throw a raging Halloween party and sign up to work Thanksgiving, sign up to work the night shift before a major conference. But the schedule is how you're going to be judged. I know there's a whole separate session on the schedule, but right now, as you're beginning this chief year, when you're going to eat that crap sandwich, sign up for the crummy didactic session that you've got to lead. Sign up for those shifts that nobody else wants. And that way, when you have to ask somebody else to do something for you, or when you frame things, wow, I really hoped you enjoyed that birthday party that you invited everybody to, but me, Henry, because I was working, because I made the schedule. Do you think you can help me out and work the night shift here? It's just a random Sunday afternoon in February. The Super Bowl. So don't forget about your minor holidays and eat that crap sandwich in public.
Is this on? Oh. I'm Amanda. I'm one of the incoming chiefs at Beaumont in Royal Oak, Michigan. And my question is sort of as administration in leadership positions, what do you guys look for when your chiefs come to you, like wanting to do new, maybe like out of the box things? Like what do you want them to come to you with? Is there any advice on kind of presenting that stuff to you guys?
I want the chiefs to do that. I think you guys are in a unique position to really transform the experiences that you have in residency. What I would like, and I think what engages more people, is come passionate, but come prepared. Know how you want to implement this. Think about some of the pitfalls, because when you present a cool idea to me, I see the coolness, but I automatically start looking at, okay, how is this going to work? How is this going to work with the all-service residents? How is this experience going to be? I look for ways that may become barriers to why this would be successful. If you already start to think about that and think about ways that you can segue out of that or prevent those barriers, and then definitely focus on the value added that experience is going to give. Because if you can present something that may not be as cost effective or time effective, but if you can really sell the leader on, hey, but this is really going to go a long way to improving wellness, it just has a lot of inherent value in it, that a lot of times people will look over some of the shortcomings of the idea. So being prepared and being passionate about it.
Just like you guys, like the best doctors are the people who are most empathic about what their patients are feeling or what those families are going through. As a chief resident, like a really huge skill set is to try to be empathic about what the person you're presenting stuff to, either your peers or people below you or the people you're trying to sell something to. So if you want to come with an idea, and I think just like you guys are this room full of like impassioned, awesome, energetic people, your program directors like survived the gauntlet of that, and that's what they are. So they're all people just like you, but you need to go and think about like, what is my program directors, like what thoughts, just like Henry's thinking like, what are the potential barriers? If you guys can come having already thought, what is my program director gonna view as potential barriers to this before you even get there? And how much more work do I gonna put on the plate of somebody? So coming with an idea of not only this is a cool thing, but this is how we can implement this without making it a huge major job on top of what a program director's job is already like, is nothing but a blessing. You will be loved for that.
Chief Resident Pro Tip number 2, work smarter and work the system. You want to make change, your program director has to do all these like crap sandwiches pretty much all day. That's all the PDs do, is they eat crap sandwiches. So rewrite the goals and objectives ahead of time. Go to your program coordinator and say, hey, what are the goals and objectives for this elective medical Spanish thing that we have? Oh, we don't have one. Well, can you give me an example of goals and objectives? Write them ahead of time. I work with my chiefs. We do a lot of stuff asynchronously on Slack or Google Docs and that kind of stuff. So write them ahead of time. Get them vetted ahead of time. Say, hey, PD, this is not going to cost you any money. It's a lot of energy behind this idea, and everything's already done for you. Let's go ahead and get started on this. It's going to make it so much easier if you work smarter and do your legwork ahead of time, especially if you have resident buy-in, and then get the APDs too, to really make change. It's like running a political campaign. Go grassroots on it. So make sure the medical students have a lot of energy about it. Your fellow residents have a lot of energy about making a change. Then go to your trusted APD or some junior faculty, get them talking about it. And then the PD's going to be like, well, I want to know about this. And that's when you slide them the goals and objectives that you've already done. And now you've changed things up completely. Now you have a new elective, or you've made a big change in the curriculum, and the PD's going to sign off on it because they don't have to do any of the work. They're going to take all the credit for it. But thanks, guys.
So what are the big things that come out of being chief that kind of help you after you're done being chief, that are things that you should highlight on your CV when you're going out for your first job?
Chief residency is definitely an honor, right? So that's one of the few positions that you can have during residency that no matter what job you go to, people have an understanding of what that means. So you definitely want to highlight it. Then you want to look at tasks that you were actually able to accomplish. So a large part of when I did some work as an assistant medical director was scheduling and modifying the schedule, dealing with schedule. That's a huge part of leadership in the community or in academics. The schedule has to be taken care of. And highlighting that you were able to effectively do that, highlight the skills that you acquired in doing that, managing people, managing requests. Those are leadership qualities that you'll obtain and improve on this year. And people recognize that managing the schedule is not easy. And highlighting, hey, I managed the schedule for this number of learners for this year. Those objective qualitative numbers are important. And the other thing is pay attention to things that you were able to initiate during this chief year. New programs you were able to start, new experiences you were able to create, because that's what's going to kind of set you apart. When you go apply for your job, either in the community or in academics, they're going to say, okay, you're here, but you're here amongst the rest of the chiefs. What's going to set you apart was what you were able to accomplish during that year, the programs you were able to effectively start and complete during that year.
I think one of the things that you guys will have that a lot of other residents won't have the opportunity to do is interface with people outside of your own department. And it doesn't matter if you're going to stay in academics or you're going to go to the community. There's a lot of crap sandwiches around for everybody to eat no matter where you go. You will have already proved that you can build relationships with other people, that you can represent your group or your department well at levels outside of amongst your own peer group and amongst emergency physicians. And that is a skill set that every single group wants. It's a great way to keep a contract, to keep the hospital happy, and to be involved. And that's who people are going to look for.
I concur. Next question.
Just raise your hand. There we go.
So what's the best way to navigate the waters of going from being peers with the rest of your residents, even your classmates, to being a pseudo boss or in a position of authority?
I got bad news. Chief Resident Pro tip number 3. The other residents are no longer your friends. And I'm really sorry. You can't be a good friend and an awesome chief resident. You are the shift manager at the McDonald's now. Everyone underneath you hates you, and everyone above you expects more out of you. Actually, that's kind of my role as department chair, too. So It doesn't really change. But how do you manage those roles? You have to build trust. Be fair. Be transparent. Don't make deals behind other people's backs. Don't play favorites. And be honest and open with everyone in the program. You know, I make the joke about the minor holidays. Yes, it's just another Sunday afternoon in February, but to some people it's important, to other people it's not. Ask your co-residents, hey, what's important to you? Not everybody's going to get all these days off. No, you cannot have every Friday night, Saturday day, Sunday night, and, you know, day shift before conference. You can't do that. So establish trust, be transparent in the way you do schedule requests, and if someone tries to split, those of you who may have children, they'll ask mom one thing and ask dad one thing. They'll ask one chief resident one thing, and they'll be like, well, Henry said I could have this day off. Keep a record of everything. That's why I really like programs like Slack, is because it's always on there. Don't hesitate. If somebody emails you individually, copy your other chiefs back on the reply. That way it prevents splitting and builds trust and transparency. And I think that goes a long way when trying to foster relationships with your peers. But it sucks, though. People will hate you because you control their schedules.
One thing my program has done to try to combat that splitting thing is we have a single EM chief residence email. So if anybody wants anything from any of the chiefs, they have to send it to that email address so that all of our chiefs are all on the same page. That has made a huge difference. And I have a record, and so do the chiefs, of like the entire year's worth of whatever happened. So it's a really great reference. And I'd say the best way that you can potentially continue to be a leader and be a peer is to be super communicative with them. If you need to have something that you don't think they're going to like happen, then get them together as a group and talk about your own feelings about this. There's no reason that you shouldn't share like how incredibly difficult this is for you to manage as a relationship with them. They need to see that you're thinking about that. And they also need to see that you don't pick, like if you're going to do something that if somebody who was your peer approached you and you would say, yeah, I don't actually think that the program leadership would be down with that, like just don't do it. Don't try to get away with stuff, because you'll have this great opportunity. You can totally do that because you control the schedule and a bunch of other things. But if you think that if somebody else approached you and you would be kind of iffy on whether that was an okay thing to do, it's not an okay thing to do for you.
Yeah, it is hard transitioning from being a peer to a leader of your peers. But I think it goes back to what he was saying earlier as far as being a servant leader. You know, not trying to really separate yourself as far as acting like you're different or better than them, but you're held to a higher standard and you are a role model. Really engaging them, and transparency is really important. Equity. Always be fair. The schedule, people are going to count shifts. People are going to be upset. Somebody's always going to be unhappy with the schedule, regardless of how many hours you put into it. They don't see that. They don't see that you guys have been working on the schedule and trying to make it fair for days or weeks sometimes. But what we tried to do was increase transparency in the schedule and actually offer what people care about are holidays, weekends, and nights. That's what people really care about. And so what we tried to do is add transparency by just, you don't have to count the shifts. Here it is. Here's how many weekends that you work compared to everybody else in your class. This is how many nights you work compared to everybody else in your class. And you can be unhappy with the schedule, but you can't tell me it's not fair. And so I think that goes a long way. And the United email is huge. Our chiefs this year decided to do that. I think it's a great idea because you guys need to speak with one voice when it comes to making a decision, and everybody needs to be kind of in agreement amongst the chiefs on things that are going to happen.
Yeah, everybody knows the email kind of sucks, though, right? I mean, let's be honest. Do you ever get text messages? That's this new thing that's come out since I was a resident. I had to buy a BlackBerry when I was a chief resident. Yeah, that's how you may even know what those are anymore. Not the little fruit out there, but yeah. So I had a BlackBerry, and people would texting was a thing because you could if you press 2 3 times, it would make a C back then. And you guys don't remember at all. text messaging and those types of things, people will screenshot you and say, well, you said to do this again. Don't let texting be a way that people can split on official business. Always refer somebody to that centralized communication modality that your program's agreed on or your chiefs have agreed on. But you always keep that line of communication open, because that's when a resident may text you something, hey, I'm going to be late to my shift today, and they may be in trouble, they may be impaired, there may be something else going on. So even though we try to say, let's go to this official pathway that we know that mom and dad are watching on this communication channel, make sure your unofficial communication modalities stay the same, if not grow them, so the residents will continue to trust you.
So actually, I found it really interesting the idea of eating the crap sandwich, especially with regards to scheduling. For our program, and I don't know how many years ago this happened because it's somewhere lost in institutional memory, but one of our APDs actually now does the schedule, and her justification for doing it is so that we don't have to eat the proverbial crap sandwich. What I'm wondering, though, is there an unintended consequence of that? In that, is there less of a gesture, if maybe that's not the right way of putting it, but less of an opportunity to make a gesture to show your co-residents that, yeah, I'm taking something extra on to try and help you guys out? I was interested to hear what you guys had as far as thoughts on that, or if you had any other experiences, maybe not within your programs, but among your colleagues who have had programs that have done similar things of taking the scheduling and putting it at an administrative program leadership level rather than the resident level.
So there are other opportunities for servant leadership, and I would just investigate those. Whatever things that the residents complain about the most, that's the grenade you should jump on first. Right. And show your servant leadership in that fashion. It's a luxury to not have to do the schedule, but it's also now a little bit more challenging. I'm sure there are shift trades that happen at the last minute, and the chiefs are still the liaison between the residents and that particular administrator. So you can take a leadership role there and look for those other opportunities. Who wants to do the medical student dinner tonight, or go to sim lab with the students? Well, yeah, I want to do that. That's something I'm excited about doing. So whatever your passion is, but also whatever your program servant needs are, is kind of where I would look for those opportunities to build rapport and to build some street cred with your colleagues.
My program has done exactly that. We've gotten from having our chiefs make the schedule to having our program manager make the schedule, and then our chiefs adjudicate the schedule and deal with all the switches and jeopardizing people, etc., which really makes them the people who are the active managers of the schedule. So there's still plenty of opportunity for you to appear as the leader of the schedule, because that's who people come to when they have questions about it. And from a program leadership explanation of why we did that is, making the schedule, that is a skill set. It takes at least 6 months, probably a year to learn. So if you guys have multiple chief residents and you stick just one of you with the schedule, that person has the biggest crap sandwich of the entire year, and the rest of you don't get to come away with that skill set. So it also means that, for a whole year, your department suffers because everyone who makes a schedule does a crappy job until they learn how to make it right. And that's why we don't do that. And I think it also takes, that's not the important part of what a chief resident does. It's the communication and the liaisoning with other people about the schedule that's really the leadership skill.
So there's a lot of other opportunities, like everybody said, to still partner or engage with the residency, do things for your residency, even related to the schedule. Coming up with events that you want everybody to go to, or wellness activities, talking to your residents and seeing what they're passionate about, and if you're not making the schedule, go to that assistant program director or whoever is controlling the schedule, and really champion trying to get activities as a group together. That's something our incoming chiefs really started doing this year, which was really nice, that I think will go a long way to endearing them to their resident body class, but also improving wellness, improving the quality of the experience. So, you know, it takes away one task that you have to do, and it's a big task, but there's still ways to be involved in it, engaged in it, and improve that experience.
I think we're almost out of time.
We have time for about one more question.
Just want to make one quick comment as we're wrapping up. The chief resident as a liaison that's the toughest job. But chief residents are really what makes a program well. And program leadership relies on you to detect things like depression, substance use, problems with interpersonal relationships, those types of things that will destroy a program. You'll deal with residents who look at pornography on a work computer, a resident who has an extramarital relationship with one of your other residents or a nursing staff member or whatnot. You'll deal with residents who do a bunch of cocaine so they can stay up all night and go to a shift and then try to come to the conference the next day. You'll deal with residents who schedule a moonlighting shift they never told anybody about, then try to get out of their Jeopardy shift. There are a lot of problems that you'll deal with. Know the boundaries, know the program rules and regulations, and if something's going over your head, do not try to manage it. Meet one-on-one with the program director. Text your PD and say, I need to talk with you. Don't do this over email. Do this face-to-face or over the phone, and do it immediately in real time. You're going to have some really, really terrible things happen in residency. And all those issues were stuff that I've dealt with as either a chief or as a faculty member. And you want to deal with those in real time and get ahead of the curve, because that's where a chief resident is really, really awesome. And then, you know, when your PD is giving you that job recommendation, it's like, how did this chief resident do it? And then I can confidently say, they managed a crisis that would have destroyed our group with grace and dignity and with all the appropriate channels, and this is a person that you need to hire as a leader in emergency medicine. So thank you all for coming. I know we're pretty much out of time, but I really appreciate it.
So let's give these guys a big hand for coming up early to give us tips in the morning.